Welcome to No Shame in Our Game. I am Lacey, your co-host / interviewee, because we're starting a new series that we're both really excited about, and I am the first guest. So here with your actual host, Sara. Hi, Sara.
Hi, Lacey. Thank you. Yes, I would call it a new format, but not permanent format, rotating in format. Here we just like to try out new things. So we're gonna do this, but you know what? I've been so excited about this since we discussed doing it. And because I'm like, oh, I think all roads were leading to this for me. I think that this is what I really wanted to do at the very beginning, and now it's here. So let me loop in the audience. So no shame, as some of you may know, started out no shame in the home game because I felt like as women, we carried a lot of shame around how our houses looked. And my whole premise was everybody's carrying the shame. Let's all open our doors at the same time. Let's talk about this. Let's not have shame around this. And what that really is this societal pressure. We're going deep here, people. Sorry if you weren't ready for this. We'll bring it back lighter, don't worry. But I think there's just this societal shame, and I'm only going to speak about women because that's the group I'm in, so that's the group I understand and the group I interact with most as clients and friends. I think there's just so many expectations. And I grew up in the era of magazines where we were getting so many messages. Look like this, behave like this, dress like this, talk like this, exercise like. I felt like when it came to kind of growing up, there was a lot of shame from all of these subliminal or possibly explicit. I don't know what your childhood looked like, but I felt like as we got into adulthood, we just carried these pockets of shame, and they're really draining. I think for me, I think it's been years, decades of slowly scraping off these barnacles of shame that have just built up because they're not serving me, and I don't think they're serving anyone else. And I'm not saying that shame shouldn't exist as an emotion. I think there might be some usefulness to it, right? But every tool can be misused to where it's damaging and not helpful. So I think by just putting the shame in the spotlight, bringing it to the center of attention and talking about it, I think is going to be helpful to us as individuals. Lacey's our first guest. We're going to talk about her particular shame pocket that she's willing to share, and then bringing on other guests. And then I think when people listen, and if they can resonate with that pocket of shame, I think they might feel lighter because they're not alone. Somebody else feels, because that's the whole thing with shame, is that it grows in the darkness. We all go into the closet, shut the door, and then it festers. But if we can all open those closet doors, shine the light on it, realize, oh, it's not as big if we just talk about it and share it and carry it together. Because that's what we're doing here. It's self-help done together. And this is part of it. Lacey, is that how you expected me to set all this up? Does that resonate with kind of what you envisioned too?
Yeah, I think I want to go back to you in the beginning, talking about this being something that you wanted to do in the beginning. And it also makes me happy. First of all, I just decided we're going to post this on the Sharing the Middle feed too. But I love how Sharing the Middle has pockets of shame in it, right? But it's focusing on a different thing. It's focusing on those, on like almost the time and all this different stuff. Whereas I feel like shame is more nefarious and can reach into so many different places. You know what I mean? So I'm excited because I'm like, who knows where these conversations can go, because those shame tentacles can get into so many different things. So
Absolutely. And I think, again, as I said, I think there probably is a good reason for shame existing as an emotion. I think as groups of people where survival was dependent on being part of a group, and if you did something that harmed the group, it was probably good that there was some shame because that's what probably kept the group safe. I'm just making some wild
well,
guesses
I
here.
know I've done some reading of Brené Brown's stuff about shame and that kind of stuff. And from her perspective, guilt is kind of what you're talking about. This idea of what I did impacted the world at large. And that can be very beneficial. By the way, it's been years since I read this. So I don't know. Maybe I could have this wrong. So if I do, I'm sorry. But that shame is that thing that burrows within us, and that is a problem. And so guilt and shame kind of go different directions. And as shame goes in, it becomes less helpful.
So we've zoomed way out. We've talked about the shame and the guilt. Now let's zoom in to Lacey's individual story. And this is what we're going to do. And remember, there's strength and vulnerability. So by Lacey being vulnerable and sharing her shame, she's going to gather strength for herself, and it's also going to share strength for others listening. So we're all going to listen with compassion and understanding that we all carry pockets of shame. Knowing that there are many different flavors of shame, there's no end to the different pockets and flavors of shame. We've used so many beautiful analogies this morning. What would you like to share a shame
So
experience?
I have 2 words in my vocabulary that I use to beat myself up. One of which is lazy, and I've done a lot of work around lazy and what it means to be lazy and that I am not lazy and all these different things. The other word is dramatic and being dramatic. And I realized the other day that I've done so much work around being lazy, right? But I really haven't done the same amount of work around being dramatic. And so I thought it could be a good one for us to talk about today. And I'm going to, this is just going to come out, stream of consciousness stuff. I'm realizing that this episode is going to be me. See, I'm trying to lay the foundation for people to still like me. Can you hear it? I'm like, yeah, this is going to happen, but it's okay because okay. No, I'm not qualifying. Okay. I'm working through the shame in real time, people. It's going to be a lot of me being very confident in who I am and my bigness as a person in personality and wants and all and emotions. Like I said, I've done some work on this, right? I've actually done a lot of work on it, but I'm not to the same place. I want to give you this idea of what it feels different. I can now think lazy and instantly know and tell you that there is almost no one in my life and in my world that would think I'm lazy. I don't think, and I can say that with confidence. Yes, I still use that word to kind of beat myself up a little bit, also to joke with myself, right? But I can also say, no one thinks I'm lazy. I know that with confidence. I know that with certainty, that kind of stuff. Dramatic. There are so many pieces of being dramatic and and that big feelings and doing big things and living out loud and wanting big things, all of that. I don't have that same I have yet to make that same connection with this bad mean word and what reality actually is. And so I think that's kind of, I guess I'll say, the start of it, of why I'm thinking about specifically this topic of being dramatic and that kind of stuff. And the other thing that I will say, I'm going to pull in a little K-pop Demon Hunters for you guys. If they just won the award for best song for Golden. And in that song, one of the people talks about, I used to be a wild child and that stuff. And now that I'm getting paid from being that. And I think I'm realizing more and more and more that the thing that makes me uniquely Lacey and the thing that I think could expand my world even more and more and more is embracing this dramatic side.
So I want to pause you there. I have some questions. When did being dramatic in your life, when did that start to be a bad thing? Because it would be celebrated in some places. So where in your narrative did being dramatic be something that you were supposed to carry shame around?
I think it definitely has a lot to do with big feelings. Thinking back to when I was younger, I just want to say I was saying all this as my experience. It is not a condemnation of anyone in my family and that kind of stuff. I truly believe everyone in my household always did their best and with what they had and that kind of stuff. And if you've heard literally anything from me, you know that I hold my mom and my parents in very high regard. But big feelings were not okay. Okay. And I seemed to have the biggest feelings of everybody. I think part of that is being the youngest, in that everyone else had much more regulation than me. And that in that regulation, in that difference in regulation, I felt too much, okay? My sister Amy, when I was younger, was quite mean to me. I want to say, before I say anything else, she's made this up to me in many ways since then. There was a period of time where she fed me every week during college, and I went to her house. So we're all healed. But she used to say I was too soft and that I would cry a lot. I was too emotional, that kind of stuff. So she had to toughen me up. So she would, poke at me, drag me up the stairs by my hair, just sister things. And so there's that piece of it. Then there's also this piece of I remember multiple times being really upset about something and being kind of banished to my room for a long time until I could quote unquote calm down. And then in that moment, right, I'm off by myself. I'm trying to calm down. I'm feeling so much shame from the outburst that I had, right? And so this taught me that bigness is those big feelings, the drama of it was too much. If you love No Shame in the Home Game, we want to hear about it. Take a few moments today and give us a 5-star review on your podcasting platform of choice. This helps others find the show so we can help everyone feel good in their home. I think another part of it is I've always been a bigger girl, and literally ever since I was born, 10 pounds, 5 ounces. I have never been small ever. And that's very challenging growing up, right? When, so you're very aware of size all the time. And I think embracing my bigness metaphorically and physically kind of combated. Sorry if you can hear Violet. Hopefully it edits it out. Anyway, sometimes the safest thing is to be a little bit small, right? To not be too much, not to be over dramatic, that type of thing. So those are the two things that come to my mind specifically.
I'm gonna take it someplace you're not expecting.
Okay.
Because I know you, and this is a voyage of discovery, because I know you for 3 years now, or maybe 4, I've lost track. I know that you love Real Housewives. And what's that other one? Vanderpumps?
Oh, Vanderpump Rules. Vanderpump Rules has kind of gone by the wayside. Summer House right now, killing it. Awesome. Southern Hospitality, those are on my tops right now. But yes.
Okay. So knowing what you just said about the big feelings, which we'll circle back to, well, it seems to me that all those shows are full of big feelings, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you
Absolutely.
feel when you see big feelings on the screen?
This is a great question. So when I am watching these shows, I am watching them for the enjoyment because a lot of times too, they're so funny, intentionally and unintentionally. There's a level of humor of it in general. I am also watching it as almost a sociological type experience where I am constantly putting myself in different people's shoes of what would I have done in this situation? How would I have acted here? That kind of stuff. And so, there is a lot of permission giving, and that really intersects with how I feel about the person. Okay, I understand where they are in this moment. That kind of determines how much I like or don't like them. So I do think it probably is a safe space for me to explore those bigness moments and big feelings. Yeah, because I'm constantly, now I will say it is never my inclination to, throw a wine glass down. I don't think I've ever had that feeling. I will say, this is just a fun fact. I have always said that I want to have the experience of being so mad at somebody that I punch them in the face. And I don't want it's not, I want to punch somebody in the face. I want the experience of having that so much passion and anger that I feel the need to punch someone. Yeah. It's not that I'm violent.
No. And I totally get that. I'm curious. Yeah. So when you watch those big reactions on the show, and I totally get everything you're saying about how would I react and just seeing it and also the humor. I am just curious. Have you ever found yourself thinking, oh, that was an outsized reaction?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. But it also, I think I have a lot more empathy for them than you would think I would as someone who is so worried about being dramatic that it would make me judgmental, but instead I have so much more empathy for them because my brain instantly goes into, okay, what is happening in this situation? They have been traveling all day. They've been filming all day. They have all these other things going on in their lives, and they're literally being followed around by people with cameras. And not only that, they're being forced into these situations that wouldn't happen naturally, right? So that's where I have so much empathy for them. So even the biggest of moments, I'm usually like, that was too much. But I understand how you got there. That type of thing. I don't do that to myself, right? I got to be honest, I don't even let myself get to big moments anymore. So I don't know.
Oh, so that was gonna be my next question. So you don't
Yeah.
get to big moments? You throttle yourself?
Very, very rarely. I get very frustrated in my household, right? I try not to yell and that kind of stuff and have those big feelings. Yeah. So, but
Wait,
I when it comes to those immediate big things, right? But I self-edit so much that I don't even know what that would
that must take a
look
lot
like.
of energy to self-edit.
I guess. I don't even
But
think it's so automatic. I can't even tell you.
okay, so again, drawing on what I already know of you, can you recount that story of you and Joe about big feelings? Remember you said something you said to one of your kids, "I'm not afraid of your big feelings." What did you
So it's funny, Miss Rachel's playing in the background right now. There's a song for Miss Rachel, and it talks about big feelings and just big feelings are, and this is something I'm trying to teach my kids, right? Big feelings are okay. I'm not afraid of your big feelings. So it was in my head one day, and I was singing it, and Joe and I do a bit where we sing kid songs to each other, right? And I sang it to Joe, and Joe looked at me and he said, I am afraid of your big feelings. And I do think that is a very interesting thing in that I am the feeler of our relationship. So I have a very wide range of feelings. I feel the high highs and the low lows. And Joe is very in the middle and steady. And so even my edited version, although he gets the widest range of my emotions, right? Because he's a very safe person for me to get them with, so he gets the wider thing. And he said it as a joke. He can handle my big feelings. I know he can. That's why it's a joke and why I am with my feelings with him.
what? Okay, now that I want you to imagine, now that you're
Okay.
an adult and you are trying to give your kids permission to have big feelings and you do enjoy watching drama TV where they have big feelings and you have empathy for them and you are with a spouse who we actually know can handle your big feelings, what would it feel like to not edit yourself around those who know you and actually let your big feelings come out? Can you imagine that?
I think so something that's very important to me is kindness and treating other people with kindness, right? And I think sometimes big feelings can be unkind. And so I'm not saying all the time or that kind of thing, because I actually was just thinking about me as a parent. My son Isaac has a lot of big feelings, and we're working with him and emotional regulation and that kind of stuff. And there are times where I do say to him, I need you to go to your room because I'm not going to let you abuse me because of your big feelings. And so I think that is a line that I always want to make sure I'm walking and modeling of, yes, I can have these big feelings, but I can't use my big feelings to beat up on somebody else.
And okay, I was about to get all therapy on you, and I was gonna say, do you think that sometimes when your parents sent you to their room, it was actually because your big feelings were they hurting people in the family, or was it truly that they just couldn't handle the big emotions? Or you don't
Honestly,
know?
I really don't know. I honestly don't think it matters because the only big feelings that were allowed, it felt like, were good ones. You could be happy. You could be happy out loud. Some people can have bigger feelings than other people. And because some people have bigger feelings and do them out loud, the rest of us have to be quieter and smaller. And so I think that it's just very layered.
I hear everything you're saying, and I can resonate with the you can only have good feelings. I felt like in our household, so I wanna relate to you. I'm not trying to take the story away, what I'm trying to do is relate to your shame about feelings. So, I there was an unspoken narrative growing up, again, Midwest, '80s. My parents both came from very conservative upbringings, WASPy, whatever. It did also feel there was a really safe middle lane. You can have a calm discussion. You can have proper requests. You can have responses within a certain format. There was this very strict lane. And even happiness, we were allowed to be happy, but you couldn't be too happy because what is that? Right?
That's too dramatic. Yeah. And as you were talking, I realized we've been talking a lot about my negative emotions being too big. Sometimes it's, my positive ones, being proud of myself. That it's I feel it is a very Midwestern thing of being humble and that kind of stuff and making yourself smaller. And this is where I was saying earlier, you're gonna hear me talk about myself in a way that has a certain level of confidence that I'm not comfortable. But there's something I am smart. I do not have, there's empirical proof. And this is the other part of it for me. If I have empirical proof to prove that I'm not being dramatic about my level of smart, I have 2 master's degrees. That shows a certain level of intelligence that I have. I am pretty. I'm not saying I'm the most gorgeous woman in the world. I'm not saying I'm hot, but I'm pretty. I got a good face. It's been put together in a nice enough way that everyone around me is going to ask me for directions. It is unthreatening. It's nice. People like me. I'm a likable individual. When people meet me, they like me. Again, I'm not saying, but you can hear me, right? Continuing to justify each of these things. And I think it has to do with this idea of being dramatic. You know what I mean? I can't overstate where I'm at and what I'm doing. I have to really ground everything. I am a good mom. I am a very specific mom. I'm a good mom to my kids. Am I the best mom? I don't think there is a best mom, but is my child crying in the background right now? Yes. But again, I can't even just say those things. I have to qualify them. I need to make sure people understand that I'm not being dramatic. I'm not overblowing myself. These things are rooted in facts and truths that are empirically true. And I do this a lot with my feelings when it comes to things too. I go to Joe a lot. I'm like, this is what I think, and I'll lay things out. And am I being dramatic? Is this too much? Did I overblow this? You know what I mean? And so there is this element of fact and feeling too that I'm constantly doing when it comes to being dramatic.
I see this being 2 episodes. This is so much good content.
Editing Lacey here to say, and that's exactly what we did. You'll be able to hear part 2 of this episode next week and get to hear us wrap up this conversation.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. I hope this gave you a little bit of permission, a little bit of possibility, and maybe even a spark of, oh, I can try that. Remember, we're not looking for the right step, just your next step, and you don't have to figure it alone. We're in it together. If you do have a question for a future episode, whether it's about home management, budgeting, boundaries, gift getting, etiquette, whatever, literally anything, and you're not sure where to turn, submit it at joyfulsupportmovement.com/submit. And if you want more support like this, come join us in the Joyful Support Village. It's where the conversation continues, and you'll find a whole community of people navigating the messy middles of life right alongside you. We'll catch you next time. No shoulds, no shame, just possibilities.